Now we've moved the other machines out. We've brought two new shapers into the room here. We've got the T800i and we also have the T1002S shaper. And these ones are both very heavy duty machines. They're at home in the largest of production shops, and they offer a number of features that will allow you to go through and do the maximum type of work on each machine here. Let's go through and look at both machines. First, let's start off with our T800. Now the T800i shaper is a rock solid performer. It features a fixed table. This is seasoned cast iron, and you can notice that it's ground very smoothly. It also has a T-slot in it for the miter gauge, and this is a standard 3/4 by 3/8 inch miter gauge slot in it, and this allows you to go through and do some small pieces with a miter gauge if you need to go through and do a cross cut. Mainly this is used for your long stick feeding, and if you do that you can go through and use the fence system to feed stock through, and it's supplied both with an in-feed and out-feed table that can be bolted to the machine for doing long stock. If you're doing smaller stock and you need more travel on the miter gauge, you may want to remove these tables. There's simply 2 bolts in the bottom, and these tables lift right off to be able to do that. Now this hood and fence assembly is rock solid. You'll notice that it's made out of very heavy duty cast iron, and that's to be a protection and also to be a good stable support for the faces of the fence. The upper portion right here features a spring hold back, and also this is a guard for your shaper cutters, as well as a hold down so that when you're feeding stock through the machine, this will actually hold it down against the table and not allow the piece of wood to vibrate. Now each of these is easily adjustable up and down and in and out by simply loosening the knob. The entire assembly can be slid forward and back and then locked in place. And when you're changing cutters and you need access to the spindle, this whole assembly can be unlocked right here and tipped back to gain access to the spindle, or even in the down position you can rotate this up, unlock the knob, and have access to the top of the nut in the spindle. Now with the upper guard assembly off, you can see just how heavy the casting is here, and again this is all cast iron. You'll notice also there's a nice large diameter dust port in the back to be able to collect the chips and shavings out of the machine, and this collects everything that's above the table. There's also a dust port on the side of the machine to collect below the table as well. Now these fence faces right here are made out of extruded aluminum, and they're nice and they're tall and very stable. The other thing that you'll see is that they ride right against the cast iron so that they have a maximum amount of stability. Now they have a handle in the back, they loosen so they can slide in and out, and you'll notice that they're beveled on the inside edge to match the diameter of the cutter head and allow you to get the actual face of the fence as close as you can to each other. Now this entire fence assembly will slide forward and back, and you can see just how easily it glides forward and back right here, and that allows you to position it so that it'll be even with the edge of the cutter head. There's also a built-in micro adjustment on the back, and we'll step around back here and have a look. And you'll notice that as we move it, you're going to see this gauge block on the side right here, and this allows you to go back and put the fence back to a preset distance from the cutter head. So if you do repeated work and you want to go back to the same setting, you can go back and use this scale right here, and it's read out both in fractional inches as well as in metric, and this allows you to go back and preset the machine. There is a lock handle on the side here once you have that setting where you can go back and lock it. So now when I take this hood assembly on and off, this gauge block goes into pins on the table and it'll lock right back into the same place each and every time. We'll set the course adjustment by sliding this forward and back, and I'll get this fairly close. I'll lock this little handle down. That engages the micro adjustment handle. Now I can go through and use this handle and set it to precisely the number that I like, and this actually just engages that one. Once I have that set, I will go through and lock this entire assembly down using the 2 nuts on the top here, these little hand nuts on the top. That locks the entire hood assembly down. Now the outfeed fence rides on a separate set of ways right here, and is actually able to be moved separate of the hood. And so right now you'll see that I'm zeroed out on the scale right here, but I can take this micro adjustment handle and push this out a little bit. And so if I'm using this shaper sort of as a jointer, I can go through and set this table a little bit lower, set this one a little bit higher, and go through and joint. Also, if I'm doing a type of shaper pass where I remove a lot of trim on it or a lot of wood, I can go through and set this one just a little bit further out to match the amount that I'm removing from the wood. Now one of the hallmarks of this machine is just how beefy the cast iron is, and you can see just how deep the table is on the side profile and how heavy the webbing is right here. But also the tabletop itself is very thick. It also comes pre-drilled. You're going to see these 4 holes right here that are drilled and tapped, and this is to accept a power feeder. If you're feeding stock through the machine and you have a lot of footage to run through here, a power feeder is your best friend. This will bolt right here in this location. It'll gooseneck up and over the top and allow you to go through and feed stock effortlessly through this machine. Now I'm going to slide the fence assembly back, and let's go ahead and raise the spindle up and have a look at the spindle. That's where the business end of the shaper is. So this will loosen up right here, And we'll go ahead and slide that on back. And I'm going to go ahead and raise the spindle up on this machine. And you'll see that these rings will lift off. Now with the spindle in the up position, you'll see that it's a very nice heavy-duty spindle. This is an 1.25 inch tooling that's on this machine here. And in order to do a tooling change on this one, you'll simply use an Allen wrench for the top here. This will loosen up on the top. And then there are 2 side nuts as well that you'll loosen up. And again, those are done with an Allen wrench. And what I prefer to do is to go through and set these spacers the same distance for different cutter heads. Now it comes with a full stack, and you'll actually remove those or install those as needed to match up with the tooling that you have on your machine. This simply lifts right off, and here with the spacers removed, you can see just how heavy of a spindle it is and just how nicely machined it is. And each of these spacers is also parallel ground to make sure that you've got very smooth, stable, and accurate work on your machine. Now this tabletop is ground with these rings in place, and the rings are removable, and these allow you to go through and keep as much of it in place as you can to slide stock through and give you the maximum amount of support and still allow you enough room to get your tooling up and in place here. And these simply lift out of the machine one by one, and the maximum opening of this is just a little over 7 inches, so you can actually take 7-inch diameter tooling and lower it beneath the table. Now with the rings pulled out of the place, you can see just how heavy the quill assembly is on the inside. You can also see by looking in here that we have trunnions on the inside, and the reason for the trunnions is this is a tilting spindle shaper, and this allows you the maximum flexibility for doing all kinds of work. And I'll go ahead and tilt this right now. And you'll see just how smooth this tilts back and forth. And this tilts from 90 degrees all the way through 45 degrees. And this allows you to go through and put different profiles on here, and to also make different types of cuts and different types of moldings by using a single cutter head. And you'll see those trunnions on the inside. Those are solid cast iron trunnions, and it allows this shaper spindle to tilt very, very smoothly and easily through the entire range. This machine is driven by a 5 horsepower ball door motor, and it's a 4-speed machine. It's got 1400 RPM, 35, 6000, and 8000 RPM available for this machine. Now we talked about this being a tilting spindle, but it is also a reversible spindle as well. Let's have a look down here at the controls, and I'll show you the reversing mechanism. First of all, you've got an emergency bump switch right here on the top, and that allows you to shut the machine off just with the bump of a knee. You also have your directional switch, and this is in a neutral position, and you can set it for both front and rear spinning. That way, if you have shaper tooling that needs to be reversed and flipped upside down, you can reverse the direction of the cutter head and do that. You also have indicator lights to indicate the speed of the machine. Here is your main power supply switch right here, and this can turn the machine on and off. You can put a padlock through here and lock the machine off. And also at the bottom, this is where the cord comes in, and it features a really easy, quick disconnect, so you can unplug the machine, move it away, and plug it back in when the machine is in the appropriate location. Now from the side of the machine right here, you're going to notice that it has a nice plexiglass window, and that allows you to go through and look at the belt adjustment on the machine and to make sure that everything is appropriate inside. Now to go through and have a look at the insides of the machine, we simply loosen the handle and open this up. And we remove the motor so we can see a lot of the components on the inside right here, so you can see the shafts and the spindles inside the machine here. Let's have a closer look at some of the internal mechanisms of the machine. Now this is the crank assembly that raises and lowers the entire spindle and motor mechanism on the inside. It's cast iron, as well as the brackets on the inside of the machine right here. Now, as we mentioned before, this machine is equipped with a 5 horsepower ball door motor. You will also notice on the inside here that it's equipped with a GE mini drive right here, and this is actually a frequency drive for the machine that really makes your motors last a lot longer and gives you the maximum flexibility and control with this machine. This also allows you to run the machine on single phase or 3-phase power, even though it's only a 3-phase motor in the machine. Now from having a look at all the features on this machine, you can see just what a rock-solid machine it is, and everything from the steel in-feed and out-feed tables to that very heavy-duty cast iron tabletop that allows you to mount a power feeder, to the tilting spindle, ball door motors, and GE drives. You can see what a rock-solid machine this is, and this is sure to be a good performer for your shop and allow you maximum flexibility for all types of projects. Now if you have any other questions on this machine or on any of our machines, you can give us a phone call toll-free at 800-234-1976 or look us up on the web at lagunatools.com.